Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior and welcome to another Mortal Kombat video. In today's History of Breakdown and Analysis, I'll be giving you all a background check on the Siren Edenian queen, Sindel. Now before we talk about her debut in the third Mortal Kombat game, we first actually must go very far back in time, before the events of the first Mortal Kombat game, in order to talk about Edenia. Now for those of you who are a little bit unfamiliar with Sindel, although she's seemingly human in appearance, she is of Edenian descent. Now the Edenians were very human-like in their appearance, however unlike their mortal counterparts, they had incredible strength that surpassed normal human standards, as well as an affinity for controlling magic. So a majority of Edenians we do see do somewhat practice in the mystical arts. Now Sindel was one of these many Edenians, and she is a very old one at that, being roughly about 10,000 years old. But the thing is, what's interesting about Edenian is that they don't normally age like humans. Although they come into adulthood quite quickly, they then sustain that form for thousands of years before they themselves quote unquote deteriorate, and even then they still look great. Now back to Sindel. She herself is the queen of Edenia, being married to its emperor known as Jared. Now we don't know too much about Sindel's childhood, or if she was in fact born into royalty, but when we first learn about the character, we learn that she's a very loyal individual to not just her husband, but her people, so she was loved by them. And as the years passed by, Jared and Sindel would conceive a child, that being the extremely young Kitana, and for the most part things were actually going well for Sindel, but this just wasn't meant to be. As you see, the outworld emperor known as Shao Kahn had interest in merging other realms with his own, and on top of this, he was interested in Sindel, so he would engage with Edenia in Mortal Kombat, a tournament where someone needed to win 10 consecutive tournaments in order to invade and merge it with their own. Now despite the many talented warriors Edenia put forth, Shao Kahn's allies proved to be far too strong, and eventually Edenia lost, for which the realm was then invaded. Now this invasion was more or less an onslaught. Thousands of Edenians were killed, including its own king, so now Sindel was left without a husband, still holding onto Kitana at the time, as it was the only remnant she had of him. Now as their realm burnt to the ground, Shao Kahn offered them a choice, to join and serve under him, making Sindel his queen, or perish much like the others. Now with no other choice, and wanting Kitana to have her own life, Sindel would give up her free will in order to become Shao Kahn's wife. So Sindel was taken to Outworld, and the two were married. Now despite Sindel's strong composure, mentally she was starting to break, and although she didn't want to lose Kitana as she meant the absolute world to her, Sindel knew that she couldn't allow Shao Kahn to do something like this to someone else, and she would kiss Kitana goodbye before taking her own life. Now this was Sindel's one last attempt of somewhat sticking it to Shao Kahn, because she did this to create a magical ward that would protect Earthrealm and stop Shao Kahn from invading it illegally. So it would force Shao Kahn to engage with Earthrealm through Mortal Kombat, and not by other means. So from here onwards, Sindel is absent during the events of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. However, her daughter Kitana, now a fully grown woman, does become aware about her mother's sacrifice, as well as Shao Kahn's deception and murder of King Jared. So she does turn against him in the second game. Now whilst we're on the topic of the second game, Shao Kahn is still currently in the process of engaging Earthrealm in Mortal Kombat, and after his loss at the first tournament, he would try once again in the second game in the hopes of destroying them, but the Shaolin monk by the name of Liu Kang is able to defeat the Emperor, and because of this Shao Kahn is extremely displeased. So as a way of working around Sindel's spell, Shao Kahn would have Sindel be resurrected from the dead, but instead of her normal counterpart, she would be corrupted in her return and follow his every order, and in her brainwashed mind, she truly did see Shao Kahn as her husband. Now with the magical ward removed from Earthrealm, Shao Kahn would begin his mass invasion. Now during this massive battle, Shao Kahn would create multiple death squads to go out and kill as many Earthrealmers as possible, with Sindel being one of the generals controlling them. Now it's here where Kitana realized that her mother was back from the dead, but she quickly came to learn that this wasn't really her mother, but instead a puppet being manipulated by the Emperor. So during the event of the third Mortal Kombat game, Sindel would be confronted by her daughter Kitana, who attempted to remind her of her previous life, her realm of Edenia, and most importantly the death of her husband Jared. Now despite Shao Kahn's incredible magic, Sindel was able to break free of his influence, and like that she would join Kitana's side and assist Earthrealm in defeating Shao Kahn. Now when the tyrant was defeated, he didn't just somewhat lose this battle, he'd become so incredibly weakened from the fight that the realms that Outworld had merged with slowly started to crumble apart, and when Kitana and Sindel realized this, they would free Edenia from his control, returning it back to its true form. Now from this point onwards, onwards, Sindel would regain her position as Queen of the Realm, wanting it to be a true home for her lost Edenia. But the thing is, they couldn't settle in just yet. Mortal Kombat 4. Now during the 4th game, as Sindel, Kitana and Jade were welcoming back their fellow Edenians, they didn't realise that they had a traitor amongst them, that being Tanya. You see, behind the lines, while Shao Kahn was busy and occupied with Earthrealm, a fallen elder god by the name of Shinnok, who hated life as well as the elder gods, was secretly plotting to take over all of the realms and burn them to cinders. Over the course of the 3 games, he has secretly been plotting and building up what's known as the Brotherhood of Shadow. So when Shao Kahn was severely weakened, Earthrealm was busy rebuilding its home, and Edenia was still having people settle in, he would take this opportunity to strike, with Tanya turning against her home and allowing Shinnok to invade, once again tearing the realm of Edenia out of Sindel's hand. Now during this invasion, Sindel fought against Shinnok's forces as long as possible in order to give Kitana the opportunity to get away. Now from this point onwards, Sindel doesn't actually play a main role in the story, as she's captured and put within her own prison. But by giving Kitana the opportunity to go free, she's able to meet up with Liu Kang and her fellow Earthrealm defenders, and together they defeat the fallen Elder God, with Shinnok being sent to the Netherrealm. Now, a significant amount of time passes between the 4th game and Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, but between these years, Edenia has in fact formed an alliance with the Shogun, and together they battle Outworld in the hopes of destroying Shao Kahn. Now this war goes on for many years, but it does seem like it is slowly but surely swaying in Edenia's favour. But that's until the Deadly Alliance turn up. The duo of Shang Tsung and Quan Chi prove to be a very dangerous pairing, as together whilst this war is going on, they are able to sneak in and seemingly kill Shao Kahn, as well as Earthrealm's champion Liu Kang. So because of this, and Kitana's interest in the monk before he perished, Kitana sets off with her fellow Earthrealm defenders in order to take them down. So Edenia is left in the care of only Sindel. But you see, this was all actually part of a bigger plan. Mortal Kombat Deception. Things turn extremely sour, especially for Sindel, because Kitana died in the battle against the Deadly Alliance, and the former ruler of Outworld, Onaga, had returned. Now the Dragon King wasn't only just successful in destroying the Deadly Alliance, but also Raiden, meaning that no one stood in his way. And to somewhat show how much of a formidable force he was, he brought back all of the Earthrealm defenders that were killed by the Deadly Alliance. So that means Kitana had returned, but this time she was the puppet being manipulated by someone else. Now Onaga, very similar to that of Shao Kahn, had the interest of merging the realms and putting them under his control, as he wished to become a divine being. So his first attack was on Edenia, and when Sindel was confronted by her brainwashed daughter, she simply could not hurt or touch her, so she would willingly give herself up. However, fortunately for her, the interference of Jade would give them the opportunity to escape, and together they would team up with Shigenko, an old man whose life was completely manipulated by the Dragon King Onaga, and because of his deception he did play a hand in his resurrection. So to right his wrongs, he would recruit as many allies as possible in order to take down Onaga and his minions. Now Shigenko was successful in defeating Onaga, and when his soul was bounded to the Netherrealm, Onaga's influence was severed from all the individuals he brought back from the dead. So this allowed Sindel to be reunited with her daughter, who she immediately embraced with a tear-filled hug. So there is a peaceful conclusion to this somewhat battle, but this is Mortal Kombat, so the battle is never truly over. And it brings us on to our next game, Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Now this is the final battle of the original timeline, where the fabled Battle of Armageddon is scheduled to happen. You see, the mortals of the world were becoming far too strong, and with each different installment, more characters were entering the fray. So a contingency plan was put together by Argus, known as the Battle of Armageddon. There was an elemental at the very top of the pyramid, known as the Fire Elemental Blaze. Now whoever could defeat this individual would in fact obtain his godlike power. So this would somewhat allow anyone to transcend to a new form, one of high divinity and power, and that is what the Battle of Armageddon is all about. There are those on the forces of light that wish to use it for good, whereas there are those on the darkness that wish to obtain it for their own personal gain. Now as expected, Sindel would join the forces of light during the Battle of Armageddon, and although she put up a valiant effort, she's one of the many casualties from this huge battle, and thus does perish. But this isn't quite the end of Sindel. As you see at the very end of Armageddon, the individual that absorbs Blaze's power is none other than Shao Kahn, and by doing so he becomes the one being and is strong enough to basically bring on Armageddon. And in a last ditch effort, Raiden sends a message to his past self in the hopes of preventing this event, and thus this brings us on to our reboot in Mortal Kombat 9. Now much like the original original timeline, everything is seemingly the same with Sindel. We'll be talking about her changes in the 11th section, don't you worry. But yes, for the most part, everything does seem to be the same with Sindel, and she doesn't make an appearance up until the final few chapters of MK9, after Shao Kahn has been defeated by Liu Kang in the MK2 portion of the game. She's resurrected by Quan Chi and is seemingly once again under the influence of Shao Kahn. However, things in this timeline and incarnation aren't quite that simple. You see, when Raiden sent a message to his past self, it somewhat created a ripple effect that changed and altered many different events. So the new timeline isn't the exact same as that of the original. You see, during the invasion of Earthrealm, there are many casualties in the battle, and during the midst of it, Raiden is able to prevent Motaro from killing Johnny Cage. So the centaur is killed, and when his body is brought before Shao Kahn, he realizes that they need a far more direct approach. So Shao would kill Shang Tsung and would infuse the thousands of souls he possessed with Sindel. By doing so, she reached a new level of power, and we would see this in Nightwolf's chapter. You see, as the war does rage on, the Cyber Lin Kuei are successful in tracking down the location of the Earthrealmers, as they're currently putting together a plan to stop Shao Kahn's extermination squads. And despite the Lin Kuei's valiant fights, they are ultimately defeated by the Earthrealmers, and this is where Sindel makes her entrance. And with her newly acquired power, she is able to annihilate everyone in her way. Absolutely no one stood a chance in this onslaught, and Sindel herself, in her corrupted form and state, would express her disappointment in Kitana. Despite Kitana's pleas, Sindel is nothing more than a disappointed mother, and slowly but surely starts to kill her, at least up until the shaman Nightwolf steps in. But even then, the Matoken warrior proves to be no match, and Sindel is able to beat him. Now, in a last-ditch effort, in order to give Earthrealm a chance, Nightwolf would sacrifice his own life to kill Sindel, disintegrating the pair of them. So Sindel is once again killed, but this isn't the last time we see her in MK9, as she appears during the final chapter of the game, where she's a revenant and servant of Quan Chi. That's really it for Sindel in MK9. Mortal Kombat X. Now, in terms of canon and continuity, X is the last game that she features in story-wise, as you see at the end of MK9. After Shao Kahn is defeated, Shinnok decides to spring his massive attack on Earthrealm, and with Quan Chi at his side, the revenants naturally follow their orders. So she can be seen in the first chapter of the game, where herself, Striker, and Kabal are taking on the duo of Fujin and Raiden, and although they aren't entirely successful in defeating them, they're able to force them back to the Jinsei chamber with the backup against the wall, as Shinnok in this timeline and incarnation is interested in absorbing the power from the Jinsei chamber. Now, despite Shinnok's godhood, he would be defeated, so Quan Chi would return back to the Netherrealm, and they would be on the run. Now, decades would pass by, with Quan Chi and his revenants being able to avoid the special forces, but it was only a matter of time before they caught up, and this is what happens in Jax's chapter in Mortal Kombat X, as the special forces do in fact want to cure their revenant allies, but first need to track them down. Now, Quan Chi at this point in time is traveling from hideout to hideout, but eventually he's caught red-handed by the special forces, and a massive fight breaks out, with the revenants killing many of the special forces present. During the chaos, Sindel battles a human Jax, as she says that in death she's now reunited with her daughter. Now, despite the power boost she received in MK9, since her demise in that game, she has somewhat gone back to her normal state, so because of this she is defeated by him. Now, Sindel makes her final appearance in the last chapter of the game, where after Quan Chi has been killed and Shinnok has been brought back, they attack the Sky Temple and take Raiden hostage, while Shinnok absorbs the power of the Jinsei, acquiring a new level of power and godhood. Now, as this is going on, the revenants have been given the orders to guard the outside of the temple, as he's not fully corrupted Earthrealm's life force just yet. So with the revenants guarding the outside, he believes his plan can succeed. So during Cassie Cage's chapter, Sindel can be seen with Kitana outside the Sky Temple, but it's not long before they are attacked by Cassie's team, and Sindel takes on the new Cage. Now, though Cassie hasn't been able to tap into a green energy on a frequent basis, she is still strong enough to defeat Sindel, and canonically this is the last time that we do see her. Now, we are somewhat unaware of what exactly happens to her from this point onwards, but it is implied and believed that Sindel travelled to the Netherrealm with Kitana and Liu Kang, as they basically become the new rulers of that realm. Now, we don't necessarily know what happens to Sindel in MK11, and with the universe somewhat being rebooted at the end, it does raise a lot of questions. But in also saying that, Mortal Kombat 11. Now, MK11 is rather interesting for this character. Although she didn't make it into the game on the base roster, she is DLC, so she has no actual involvement in the main story. However, one of the very interesting yet controversial topics about this character is in fact the changes and alterations to her background. You see, in MK11, they've given her a complete rehaul in the terms of her backstory. So instead of being a faithful queen to Edenia, she is instead a very deceptive individual, only wishing to be with someone if there's something she can gain from it. So it's widely believed that that's the main reason why she got with Jared, as it seems like she wanted Edenia to fall if that meant she could get a better lover as well as more power. In her arcade ladder ending, it was revealed that she in fact turned on Jared, as all she wanted was Shao Kahn. Now at this point in time, she still was Kitana's mother, and thus did bring her into Shao Kahn's household, which does raise the question as to how she died. Well, it's implied through some intro dialogues that not long after she had become Outworld's queen, Quan Chi was apparently responsible for her demise, killing her right under Shao Kahn's nose. So apparently this is the new somewhat canonical way she passed in the reboot, although it isn't entirely solid in stone. And the reason why I say that is 1, she's a DLC character, and 2, a lot of ideas that are created for her DLC release not only conflicts with some of the older existing lore, but it conflicts with ideas created for 11, because in a verbal exchange between D'Vorah and Kitana, it's revealed that apparently D'Vorah had killed Jared. So the continuity of this rebooted character is very flaky, and I believe it's definitely worth mentioning here, as it has been a huge talking point about the character. But yes, that's everything I wanted to say about Sindel. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I certainly did, and I'm very excited for Sindel's release. Although I'm not a huge fan of the changes and alterations to her background, she looks like a lot of fun to play, and I've always really enjoyed her presence in Mortal Kombat games, despite me myself not being a Sindel player. Now, will you be playing Sindel on Tuesday? Please do comment down below, and what variation are you looking forward to the most? But yes guys, that's everything I did want to say here. So before this video wraps up, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes. It's honestly a great way of supporting this channel, and also do not forget to tick that bell and subscribe, as it will notify you when I do upload a video. But yes, that's everything I did want to say for now. So as always, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I will see you all next time.